Hey everyone, 5-minute track guide for Belle. It's going to get you everything you need to know. Let's start at turn number one. Turn number one, you're going to approach, you're going to hit the 300 board. That is where you're going to hit the brakes. You're going to trail brake, take a wider entrance into this corner. And as you do that, towards the very end of the corner, let's try and get up on this curb, or just in general. That's sort of the identifier I use. If I'm touching that curb at the end, I know I've got a good line into the next corner. You want to be as close to the pit exit wall here on the right side as you can. Without scrubbing off too much momentum so that you can get around for a nice entrance into turn number two. And I even think I've turned in a bit early here. The goal is to come around here and really minimize touching this curb because the car is going to drift so far to the right. As you come over this crest, the car is going to want to understeer into the wall on your right. It's okay if you have to lift and adjust after the crest. That's the thing that you're going to have to sort of do as you drive this track is take what it gives you, and if it is giving you you're about to hit a concrete wall, letting off the gas and losing a tenth down the straight is better than getting a meatball in what right now are probably some very fragile cars for these kinds of hits. Going down the straightaway, the first big straightaway on the track, to turn number three, we're going to get over the left side of the track, and then boom, right here, somewhere in between the 400 and 300 board, we're braking. Towards the start of the race, on cold tires, we're probably braking at the 400 board. Later in the race, we can creep down to 350, maybe even 325, depending on car setup, track conditions. But I would definitely inch your way forward. Don't make leaps, especially in the middle of a race. When we come down here, we're going to want to get as close to the wall on the left side as we can, and then turn in. I'm going to induce a little bit of a flat spin here accidentally, but for the most part, I'm able to gather it up and still get it over this curb. And that's really where you want to be, as much of the car over the curbing as you can get without getting it off track for dipping too far into that grass. We're going to come out on the exit here. This little light colored grass on the left is not grasscrete. It's not what is at Brands Hatch and other British tracks. You don't want to touch it. It is real grass. Out of turn number three to turn number four. This one's a bit difficult. It's hard to spot a solid braking point for this. Some people count off the amount of signs, the alternate colored signs on the right or left side. I'm just kind of using the top end of third gear in the Elantra, and then working my way into this corner. It's a pretty forgiving corner. There's a couple lines you can take through it, and they don't differ any more than maybe a tenth from each other because it's such a short run down to the next turn, turn five. So as long as you are getting a decent turn in and staying off the wall here, the big thing is maintaining momentum. I'm not shifting down into second for this. I'm trying to stay in third. You just want to carry as much speed as possible. So take whatever line you need to get you there. You see, I even brushed the wall here. We're going to come up to turn number five, break point. This kink in the wall on the right side. Big thing about turn number five, you're going to see I'm going to turn in what looks a bit early because you want to kind of, you do think you want to kind of get around that curb there. But there is, like in a couple other places on this circuit, a little dip in the track surface, the road surface, close to the inside curb. And you want to sort of get into this groove before you pass it, because it's going to get you a lot more grip towards the end of the corner. Touching this curb is fine. It's fine to even go over it a little. What you're really looking for is to line yourself up with the track wall on the right side. So you can kind of keep your eye on this kink as you are coming through. And you see here, once I'm sure that I'm lined up and I'm not going to hit the kink, I start to unwind the steering wheel a bit in preparation for the next turn, turn number six, maybe the most important for your lap time. And the best braking point is just kind of the trees on the left, wherever you feel comfortable, somewhere before this last one. The big thing here is not where you're braking. You're not going to gain your time under braking in this corner. You're going to gain it on exit. So a turn in, a proper turn in is going to be essential. You turn in too early, you're going to have to avoid that inside wall. It's better to miss this apex by, half a car length than it is to realize you're going to hit this wall and have to adjust mid-corner. You're going to lose more time doing that. Just get consistent about getting the car slowed down as you come over this crest. Notice I finish all my braking before here, and that's because the road crests. There's no point in doing any braking after that. If you're braking after that, you're in trouble. Um, you see here, I'm not even trail braking yet, so you're not going to have a whole lot of grip. There's nothing keeping the front end down. You're going to just coast through here and get consistent at it as you come around this corner, and then start to narrow it down, go earlier turn in, and eventually you will be at a point where you can at least consistently get a good amount of speed out of here. I'm going to brush the wall again there, again on the limit. Down the other long straightaway on this track. This one's a bit different than the entrance to turn 3. As we come down to turn number 7, we're going to have to go hug the left side here. We're going to go right to left so we straighten out the car as much as possible. We're using as little of our grip to turn the car while we are braking. So we do have to do a little bit of turning because I do believe at some point you're just losing time going out too far wide. So I'm typically using the 400 board here. Even later in the race, I'm not going much deeper. There is less grip on the track here, I think. I'm hugging the left side all the way around, so I am doing some turning. This is the heaviest I get on the brakes here, and as I turn in, I'm just aiming for this curb. And I even, this is a missed apex, honestly, at least in the Elantra. In the bouncier Honda and Audi, you may want to be taking something more akin to this, where you aren't generating a whole lot of bounce. You may even have to go around this curb. The Elantra, the Veloster, they can hop this, and they can hop much more of this than what I take here. And again, what you're looking for on exit is to line yourself up with this kink in the wall. And, you know, as you come off the curb, you can kind of judge it and see whether or not you have to do a kind of panic lift off the gas. If you do a panic brake, you are going to send the car into the wall. I promise. Even a light tap of the brakes can sometimes be worse than just lifting off the gas. You've already lifted off, you know, you've already been coasting through the corner. Just a little bit more of a lift will typically clear you of this wall if you're heading towards it. If you do have to apply the brakes, just do it in a trail braking manner, or else you will send the car straight. So here I start to, you know, I get to this point. I'm like, okay, I've cleared that wall. Let's move on. We're going to go to turns 8, 9, 10, 11, the Fountain Complex. Over here, right side, there's a kink in the wall. I'm using it as the brake point. Here, the line is super important. And the braking is super important. I'm gonna trail brake all the way down into this little dip in the road surface. It's just like at turn number 4, you have that, or excuse me, turn number 5, you have that depression just before or just at that inside curb. And so I'm gonna trail brake into it, and then look at my throttle input here. I'm gonna go slow motion. Watch that throttle input. Smooth, totally smooth. Because the car's already bouncing around a lot from going into that dip. You do not want to, if you jam on the gas, you're going to catch the weight transfer at an awkward point. Maybe the body has rolled all the way to the right, you know, for example. You know, the pendulum has swung to the right. You jam the gas in, you lock that in. Now the car is going straight right. So you're going to end up in the wall. So the smooth application of the throttle allows the car to settle down while you still are able to get out of the corner with some momentum. Coming into turns, this is 9, 10, and then 11. So 9 and 10, just kind of coasting through. You can see my inputs here. This is more of just a feel your way through it. It's going to be different every lap. I'm just kind of, you know, I tap the brakes to keep the front end down. Tapping the brakes brings the front end down onto the front tires, increases your grip. Something I'm doing to keep myself close to that curb. I want to stay as close to it as possible because when it runs out, we're going to hit the brakes and we're going to go for as wide a turn in as possible into this corner. Another small dip here. It's not as bad as the one back on turn 8. Not even really as bad as the one on turn 5. You don't want to clip this curb. You don't want to do anything to push the car to the outside wall because look at how much I'm going to dip into here. This is a huge sort of recession, a depression in the track surface. And if you are going full throttle out of here and you're closer to the wall, look at how much my car gets moved to the left side of the track here. And you will see that I am still turning the steering wheel to the right. So the car is very much going towards that wall as I continue to steer to the right. And that's just something you're going to have to deal with. This is the corner that gets a lot of people with wall strikes. There's one of many. But this one in particular, I think, is tricky. And it's a real test of, look, there's not a huge run down to the next turn. It looks long, but if you have to lift, you're really only going to cost yourself about a tenth. It's okay to do that and keep yourself out of the wall. Last two corners you have to slow down for are 12 and 13. We have brake markers hitting the 200 board right there. Turn in, avoid this curb to the best of your ability. Again, it's going to cause you to bounce out into the wall. Look at my throttle inputs here. First of all, I'm not doing a whole lot of trail braking in this instance because I'm trying to carry more momentum through this corner. It's a bit of a higher speed corner, and you can get the turn in you need a bit earlier in the process on entry. Once you come out to this wall, this next corner, if conditions are worse, if there's less grip, then you may have to give it a full lift. You're going to see with my throttle input, I don't even give it a full lift. I'm just kind of modulating as we run through it. And the important thing here is, again, there's a little dip next to the curb. So you want an earlier turn in than you may expect, because you need to get in there onto that slight banking, into that groove, and it's really going to carry you through the corner. And you'll know if you've done it right. You'll know if you've done it right about here, because if you haven't done it right, the car's going to start going left, and you will most likely have to lift. Out of the final corner, a quick mention about pit entry. You'll see the kink in the wall where it turns right down pit lane. That's your braking point. Right after that kink, basically where these concrete lines are, as your car passes over those, you can start braking for pit lane. That may even be a tad early, but it's a good reference. It's safe. And if you want to go a bit deep, you can just say go a car length past it. And that is a lap around Belle Isle. This lap was a 1:37.482. I've done faster. I expect there will be faster times done in the race. But it's a good example of what to look out for here at Belle Isle. One last note about pit exit. People coming out of the pit lane are at your mercy. So if someone's coming out the pit lane and they also have that wide line, they can go full throttle from here out through this corner. So if you're alongside them right about here, they'll probably still be alongside you on corner exit. So just make sure to leave the space and avoid any silly incidents in that wall. Thanks, guys.